to order on Thursday, January 28th, 2021. In accordance with Governor Mondo's Executive Order 21-01 dated January 6, 2021, the Cumberland School Committee intends to conduct this meeting remotely. The public can participate in this meeting remotely, but not in person, by calling area code 646-558-8656. The webinar ID is 973-1245-1224, or you can go to the Cumberland School Department events calendar website, and you'll see a link there for the Zoom meeting, and you can log on through that way. And the passcode is 672600. So I need a motion to approve the agenda, please.
Motion to approve?
Motion by Kerry,
Second.
second by Mr. Collins. All in favor?
Aye.
Ayes have it, 3-0. Next is approval of the minutes, actually compliance with the governor's executive order 2101 dated January 6, 2021. Mr. Chandler, public has access to the meeting?
Yes, they do.
Yes, they do. All right, so I need approval of the minutes of 12/10/2020 and January 14th, 2021. Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Motion by Mr. Collins,
I will second.
second by Mrs. Smith. All in favor?
Aye.
Ayes have it, 3-0. Next is the payment of bills. Alex, there are no payment of bills, correct?
Correct.
Okay, next is the business office monthly report.
Well, what I thought I would do tonight, since last time we met, I gave out a December report and don't have obviously January yet because the month hasn't even ended. I would just share with committee members I'll look to hand out at our meeting with the town council, our joint meeting on February 8th. So I've sent that out. I know Cindy put it in your drive. I don't know if people have it or have access to it, have it open, but I'd like to talk about that if people have it open and ready to go.
I am ready to go. Mr. Collins and Ms. Smith, do you have the file open, the latest one?
Did
Yes,
people
mine
see
is
the
just loading
did people
now.
see the email that I sent out this afternoon about updating it? Hold on 1 minute.
Yes, to silence George.
Okay.
Sorry, I'm back. I had to take care of my dog. I was barking at a fly going by the window or something. Who knows? But anyhow, I sent out a amended copy of this today. I don't know if you have that one. And what it basically did is on the local appropriation, the revenues on the first page, I hadn't on 22, 23, and 24 brought forward the number that we got this year, which will be maintenance of effort. I hadn't done that. So I did that. And when you do that, it actually drops that gap that you might have saw on the last page from 4.8 to 4.2 million. So you have that report. That's the report I will work off next week. And basically, you could see how the report works. It gives you a lot of information on what budgets were from 18 right up through 21, and then projections for 22, 23, and 24. The very last page, and I'm not going to read them all tonight because there's a lot to cover in the meeting, but the very last page, you can see the assumptions I've made, which is, no increase, for example, no increase in positions. I've made some assumptions on salaries. For example, in 22, there's no salary increases built in for either teachers or administrators. It looks like if you look at some of the administrative salaries in here, it looks like there's a raise in there, but that is only given them the raise that they deferred last year. that they didn't give it up, they deferred it. So they didn't take it last year, but they would get it this year. So it looks like it's just bringing them where they would have been this year. And then going right on down, there's assumptions on healthcare claims that I've worked with a healthcare consultant. He thinks we're looking at about a 5% increase next year, and right on down the line. On the revenue side, I've made an assumption, no change in state aid, which may or may not be true. If anything, we'd probably get less state aid, but I haven't touched that number. And I haven't touched the town appropriation. Now that obviously, I would hope isn't going to be zero each of the next few years, and that's why the gaps grow. For example, a $1 million increase in 22 would carry all the way through to 23, 24, and would reduce those shortfalls. So take a look at those. We could talk about, we'll talk about them next Monday or before Monday. If anyone has a question on any of the assumptions or why I've made that assumption, please email me and we'll go over it. If you go to the next to the last page, though, where you see the gaps, I don't know which one you're looking at. You're either looking at a 4.8 or a 4.2, depending on what report you brought up. And like I said, the 4.2 is based on bringing the town appropriation of 632 last year that we got, bringing that into 22 and all the way across. So that brought that gap from 4.8 to 4.2, depending on which report you're looking at. But the important thing is that on that page, or the thing of interest, is that 4.2 million, it's in 5 or 6 items right there. If you look, all steps next year, I've rolled them up. They're about 550,000. Pensions will go up about 345 based on the rates that I've gotten from the retirement board. Medical, talking to our healthcare consultant, a 5% increase is what he's looking at, actually 4.8. Busing, that statewide contract, we're going to have to do something about that. We have to have Durham apply more buses so that we can start transporting some of these kids ourselves. They are allowed to do that if you can do it cheaper than the state contract. And since they had a 26% increase last year, I think we can do it cheaper. Charter schools, just based on the normal couple of $100 we get increase each year, and the tuition is about 100,000. And the big one is because last year we didn't really make any reductions in the budget the superintendent recommended. We, 4 to 3, we decided to keep people on. And some of the COVID money that we rolled in, and the town also feeling because of COVID, I think they felt that a tax increase might be really tough for some people who might have been unemployed due to COVID or whatever. We ended up with only a 1% increase from the town. At the same time, we got over a 4% reduction in state aid. That resulted in us, between the ESSA money we got and all the one-time items we put in this budget, the healthcare cushion the town gave us, that's in the budget for 400,000. There's a master lease in the budget for 832. A number of one-time items of about 2,558,000. Those items alone, that 4.5 million, is the entire 4.3 million shortfall on the more updated sheet. So it was everyone's idea or plan last year with COVID and the rest of it. Everyone knew we were going to be using a lot of one-time items. This year, we're going to have to resolve that. So we'll go into this deeper next Monday, and please look at it. Any questions that you want to ask me or discuss prior to Monday, so that you'll have a good understanding of the report and what we're projecting. That'd be great. And just one thing I'll point out on that front page, the revenue, you'll see under 21 some bolded revenue line items. Those are the one-timers that we have to make up. They total about 3.5 million, but we won't be doing the high school security again. That's 650 that will drop off the expense side. The expense side. And I expect unemployment, that was 400,000 we budgeted this year, would drop back more to the 100,000 that we usually budget. So that 900,000 brings that 3.5 down to like 2.5. So that's what I'm talking. We're looking for about 2.5 million of one-timers. Now, Any questions to now or, it's kind of a lot to just, unless you've been looking at it right along and have some questions. If not, like I said, anytime during the week, shoot me a question on any of the items.
I do have a question unless Mr. Collins and Mrs. Smith have a question. I have a couple, Alex.
Go ahead, Paul.
You're estimating medical will go up $432,000. Have we talked to the medical people yet?
Yes, I
The kick,
mentioned that.
about the kickback and prescription drugs that we're supposed to get?
Yep, I have, and there's some good news there. That number is going to be about $66 per person per month, and it's about $350,000 to $370,000. But that's going to come in quarterly. So some of that is going to come in this year, which I will be building into my January report, and there'll be some money coming in next year.
But is it going to come directly to the school department? Again,
Yes.
going back on
Yes,
the
no,
report.
it should. This year, the first year, because we have no working rate from prior years, we will get money back. In year two, next year, a year from now, we won't get a check back anymore. That number, whatever it would be calculated into our rate increase. So we
Okay.
would see it in the rate, but that's how that will work.
And the second question I have, and this will probably go to Mr. Mitchell as well. If we're trying to save money on the statewide busing contract, have we reviewed the current list of students that the state is charging us for this year? Have we reviewed them with Dr. Santa to see if she feels those students will be back next year or not, so that we can provide a list to Durham or whoever it may be, so they can bid out that work, so we can determine if there's going to be any savings?
I would just say that hasn't happened yet. We will have those type of discussions when we start meeting with departments on the budget. I'm just gathering budgets now and getting a working number and that sort of stuff. And Mr. Mitchell, I think has meetings. Has Cindy scheduled them yet, Bob? Do you know?
Yeah, we're meeting next week.
Yep. Starting next week, we'll be meeting with individual departments, and that'll be something we'll ask Paul.
Okay. Anyone else have any questions in regards to this budget assumption? You'll be handing this out at the town council meeting, correct?
Right. I'll hand this out. I've sent the updated one with that change in state aid today. So, I mean, in town appropriation. So that's the one we'll be going with. I can have Cindy load that one in your drives. I didn't want to chase her down and have her do it again today. If I could just let me send it, and I would just explain it tonight over the Zoom meeting here. And then, but you'll have it. You can either print that one, or she could put the updated one in your drive.
All right, I have it printed. All right. Is there anything else, Alex, in regards
No,
to?
not on that. I don't have a January report yet for the current year.
Okay, Sean is not online, correct? So Sean is not here at the moment. Facilities report, anything, Alex?
Yeah, I believe Mr. DeJesus is on, and I think he's just going to give you some, verbally go through some of the things that we've been working on, he's been working on. So go ahead, Will.
So we've been working with Colliers with the safety project over here at the high school. It started off pretty well, but we were getting some leaks through a pipe in the wellness center, but they have corrected that problem. I've started creating a small punch list as the project keeps going on. I'm creating a little punch list so that they can go back and correct whatever I've been finding for problems. We've had E&E and NextGen here filling the schools with glycol. They're almost all done. They just got to put in place the glycol in the storage containers, and we got to just get those wired. But everything's been running fine. We've had a little bit of airbound problems, but they've been correcting that, and Don and Jody has also been working with them on correcting that problem. We called a couple of vendors that we've been using throughout the year to get us just some kind of numbers before we present the new office space / guidance area down at the safety opening, where we're going to be coming in and out of the school now, just to get us some ideas on what that project's going to run us before we put in the paper. There's been a lot of painting throughout the year, especially when the children weren't here through that 6-week span. We've had custodians paint. I did receive some MERV 13 filters for North Cumberland and McCourt. I'm going to try a couple of rooms in each school to see how those univents take with those MERV 13s. I'm not too certain if they're going to work with them. We've also had a lot of repairs throughout the school district. Don and Jody's been great doing all that. They've also were able to get up and running a lot better the art wing and the science wing. We've had some problems there, but with a lot of troubleshooting, they were able to get all that working properly. And as you know, we've had a lot of vendors in here working on the rooftops, exhaust fans, the univents, cleaning of the coils at BF and Cumberland Hill. I think as the bond goes through, what we should do to each school, if we get that vendor back out here to do all cleaning of the coils as that school gets done with the projects. Had a couple of staff members come out with COVID, but other than that, that's about all I have for a facility report. If there's any questions that I can help you with.
Mr. Mitchell?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Well, can you just update the fiscal subcommittee on the issues that you're dealing with at North Cumberland Middle School and what you've done to resolve the issue with the heat?
Okay, yeah, today we found that we had the whole 8th grade wing. We weren't able to have the fans run. There was heat in the areas, but there was no fan movement to get the heat going out of the univents. E&E did come down and correct that problem. It had something to do with their server, I guess, down there. We also had a pipe that broke in one of the univents, and I had Next Gen come out yesterday, and they repaired that without draining the system.
Can I just make one more statement and correct me if I'm wrong, Will, please? The filters that Will just mentioned going into the univents, these MERV 13 filters, we've heard a lot about how, the regulations are, for the most protection that can be provided is a MERV 13 filter. And here's, I guess, where I need your expertise, Will. Isn't it true that the actual filter has to actually fit into the univent? Not only does it have to fit into the univent, the air has to be able to flow through the filter adequately without like doing any harm to the motor, that sort of thing. Is that an accurate statement?
Yeah, that's pretty accurate. What I'm worried about is with the new with the MERV 13 filters with the old units, it may suffocate and make the motor work extra hard to pull that. That's why I wanted to try at the 2 newer univent schools, which is North Cumberland and McCourt.
All right, thank you. And I just for everyone's information, and we're going to have to address this issue as we talk more about getting students back for more in person. Every single space where students and staff meet, we are meeting the requirement of 4 to 6 air exchanges per hour. Because of the work that we did on the univents, we have some spaces that the air exchanges are being met because of the work that was done on the univents. And in those spaces where the univents aren't meeting the 4 to 6 air exchanges, every single one of those spaces in the district has an air purification unit. So I know that is an issue that we're going to have to address as we move forward. But the good news is with the school committee's support, we have, I think, done a really good job of addressing that particular issue. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You're welcome. Anyone have a question? Will, go ahead, Carrie.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Will, I'm just wondering, for those, as Mr. Mitchell has just discussed, the 4 to 6 changes of airflow, is that inclusive of having windows open, or is that being done with the closed windows? This has been a concern raised by some parents that there are windows still being opened and looking to see if their air vents are or extra ventilation is needed.
So going by the state guidelines, the air purifiers that they've provided us, if we put those in those rooms, you can shut the windows.
Okay. And my understanding is that we do have a surplus on those right now, that we hadn't used all of them that we
We
had.
haven't used all of them. I have been passing them out to the other schools where I had the air purifiers that we bought
Okay.
in those rooms. I'm replacing them with the state ones.
Okay.
So just to clarify, Ms. Smith, great question. The units that we bought provide 2 to 4 air exchanges per hour. We are making sure that classrooms where there may be a concern, we're putting one of the 300 that we received from the state into those classrooms, really. I mean, and the truth is, and this is one of the things I've learned as we've gone through this process, is like I have an air purification unit in my office. And the truth is, I really don't need one unless there's another human being in there. And then all I really need is the 2 to 4. But so they, individuals who may work in an office by themselves, or occasionally have a student or an adult in their space, that's really the only time that you would need you would need one of those units, and it can be the smaller of the two.
Okay, great. And if I could just ask quickly just one more question, because I do know that this is going to come up in our later conversations as well. The custodians within all of the schools, are we all set in our workforce to manage? We have enough custodians and to manage in coverage should someone has to go out for quarantine or other reasons. Are we covered in all of our schools to be able to manage all the students coming back in every day?
We do have a game plan for that, where other custodians may come, the night custodians may come in, a half shift type thing. If someone calls out, we do have a sub list. It's not a very big sub list, but we do have several people on that.
Okay.
So we should be fine.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, just to piggyback on what Will just said, plus we have a custodian who will be retiring effective tomorrow. And we know that we need to advertise to fill that position.
Okay. Mr. Collins?
I just have 2 questions. And again, you'll have to pardon my ignorance with industrial engineering, but these, the MER filters you're testing on the univents, if they're not a match, can we return them? Can we sell them, or do we have other use for them?
That's the reason why I started out in those 2 schools, because those are the newer univents that we have. And according to the E&E, we should be able to use those in those newer units. I didn't want to buy any for the older units, just in case if they were suffocating the units, and it would be a waste of money. Where then I would go back to my other game plan, where it would be changing the filters twice instead of once a year, changing them twice a year.
Are we still looking at the same shortage we were looking at in the fall with air purifiers, or is that if we were to need more or different supplies, if something were to break, is there still an ongoing issue with China or supplies or anything that you've experienced?
So, no, actually, we've got all the replacement filters for the units that we bought. We are looking into getting the replacement filters for the ones that the state brought us. And as far as the numbers that we have for both, we have plenty.
Yeah, my only other question would be, with potentially more people returning to school, how are we fixed? And this may be an Alex question, but how are we fixed with PPE gear, hand sanitizer, gloves, cleanup? Are we good with that?
Well, I'll tell you, we've got quite a bit of money left in our line items, because when we put the budget together, we really we really didn't know how fast we would go through this, if we'd be in school, if not. So we've got enough money in our budget to buy stuff. However, after we passed our budget, so much of this other stuff has happened. The good example being the 300 filters. We've got $112,000 in Will's budget to buy purifiers because we didn't know the state was giving us 300. Then all of a sudden we got 300 filters. And the same can be said with sanitizer, mask, all that other type of stuff. You've received a lot of this after the budget was passed. I don't know how much is still in your office.
Oh, we do have a good surplus.
Yeah. But this all came after. So we've got money in our line items. I wonder if, as you recall, the ESSA money was supposed to, or the COVID relief money, not ESSA, excuse me, was supposed to take care of expenses for September through December. And then you were supposed to use your money for the rest of the year. Well, we spent a lot of our COVID relief money on those type of items. And then because the state's given us so much, we haven't had to use our budget. I don't know if that's going to somehow be an issue down the road. They're going to say, gee, you spent all this with ESSA money. You really didn't buy anything on your own, but you gave us all this stuff, after the fact. So that's what we'd have to explain to them.
I'm sure the lieutenant governor soon to be governor will help us.
I was thinking that we should just have coffee with him as well. Yeah.
If he talks to us. All right, Will, I had sent you a question just before the meeting. Are we turning up the heat in the boilers right now for this cold chill we got starting tomorrow?
So we are changing that for the night. Well, when we have it as for the weekend mode and the night mode, we're changing that to have the boilers run.
Okay.
And Don and Joe are in the middle of closing all the dampers at North Cumberland and McCourt. We did do them over here as when we got the air purifiers from the state. I made sure that those rooms had those so we can shut the dampers.
Okay. All right, so we keep our fingers crossed we don't have any pipes burst on
We
us.
have glycol throughout the whole system, throughout the whole
Right.
now. So my only concern would be a water pipe.
Right, okay.
Well, I just want to add that my daughter came home from school on Tuesday and told me that a pipe burst in her classroom and it was going to cost $5,000 and school was going to be canceled. So I'm like, okay, honey.
Yeah.
No, it wasn't that much. It didn't cost that at all.
She's like, we had to move. You know what I mean? $5,000, the teacher said. So
Oh, teacher knew the cost.
Okay, and no other questions for Alex or Will in regards to that. We'll move on to discussion of the planned univent work at the high school and high school security options.
Yeah, these are a couple of things I wanted to just update the committee on. The first one, the univent issue. As you know, well, maybe you know, maybe you don't know, this late spring, summer, we hope to be doing the univents at the Trans Building to get that ready to be swing space for the elementary schools down the road. So when we go into Cumberland Hill to do work, the Cumberland Hill students will be able to occupy the Trans Building. One of the things we're really struggling with are the univents that are in the pool wing. There's some 20-something univents in the pool wing that are probably maybe the worst in the district. We have money. We had set aside $1.2 million for univents at the elementary schools and new controls there. If you recall, well, the new members won't, but Paul and Mark Fiorillo would probably. When we first had E&E put control systems in, we had some old control systems in place from the 90s that the district had just let go dormant. So we used those systems at first. They were old, but they were able to do, they were for $100,000. We got 3 schools up and running. Those should be replaced. So in the bond issue, there's some $400,000 to change those energy management systems, which control boilers and, univents and, everything in the school that either heats or cools something. And there's another $800,000 to repair, not replace, but to repair univents. Well, we feel we've done a lot of that work this year to get schools open. We did a lot of work on those elementary univents Will had companies come in, even clean the coils at a couple of schools. We replaced motors and fans and on it went. And we think we're in pretty good shape there, that if those univents here and there started breaking, I would replace a fan or a motor or whatever through the regular operating budget. And that would be, you know, and not have this 800,000 would be needed. So what I'm suggesting is that we go to RIDE, and I've spoken with RIDE. They were receptive to the idea. They even told me what, I guess Bob would write the letter, exactly what Bob should say in his letter, to move money from that elementary 800,000 over to the high school to do those pool wing univents, which are some of the worst in the district. Now, we got an estimate on the ones at the trans building to put new univents and controls in. It's going to be about 500,000. So there's about half the number of units in the pool wing. So, you know, maybe 250 somewhere, 250 to $300,000, we could get that pool wing done. So my recommendation, and I think Bob and I and Will and Mike will come to you guys with something more formal once we've met. We have a meeting with RIDE on the 2nd that Bob and I will be attending on the bond issue, you know, on our design, and with Toronto and Colliers. After that meeting, if things go the way we hope they are, we would maybe make a recommendation to take some of that elementary money and move it to the high school and get those univents up and working. And there may be some savings there, but because if you're going to be working in the summer on univents and controls of the trans building, you'd have the vendor already there to do the ones at the pool wing also. You know, you would do both those sections of the high school at the same time. So more on that down the road. I don't know if Will, Bob, or Mike want to add anything to what I've said, but I just wanted you guys to know what we're thinking on that.
No, if I may, Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead.
Okay, so yeah, I mean, there's no question that this is, under the circumstances, given all of the issues that we're having with the ventilation, that everyone is in agreement. The architect, our owner's project manager, everyone's in agreement that this is the right thing to do. So, and there was one other thing I wanted to mention related to that, and it escapes me at the moment. But no, I agree with, I agree that this is a move that we really need to consider, and all as a result of what has happened with COVID, because as you know, all of our original plans were submitted long before this COVID issue impacted all of us. So there's something else I want, it'll come to me, I'm sure, in a minute. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
On the other,
Hold
okay,
on.
go ahead. Sorry, Kerry, go ahead.
Carrie, go ahead.
Oh, thank you. Alex, just tying in what you had said to start that, and that is that we have done a lot of repairs where we're going to have savings now, and I'm guessing that is through the bond issue. But
Right.
I just want to make sure, so anything that's being paid or anything that was paid related to all those corrections during this COVID time, were we aligning that with our regular budget, our bond budget, or our COVID budget?
Almost all of that money came out of the COVID relief funds. The
Perfect.
636,000 we got, we probably spent about a third of it on repairs and getting those univents up and working.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I remember.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry, were you done, Ms. Smith? I apologize. I don't know if we have reported this to anyone, but and if not, I think it's important. One of the things that we learned recently, within the last week or so, Mike has been a part of these meetings too, is that, you know how we initially, and forgive me if I'm repeating myself, we initially anticipated that work on the swing space would be starting in the spring, but because of COVID and all of the delays that everyone is experiencing, that's being pushed back to June. So just wanted to make you aware of that.
Okay.
Will the same deadline still be true, even though it's being pushed back a little? They're going to still be able to complete it to have that swing space available to start school?
Well, we hope so.
Yeah, that's what we've been told.
One of the things I didn't mention, but if we're going to do univents in that swing space, which we are, that's part of the project, RIDE is requiring us to use a company, Magic Air, which has done testing of the noise that the univent makes, and they are the vendor that RIDE will make us use because of noise in the classroom. To get the Magic Air univents, the larger univent, it's a 16-week time frame. It takes 16 weeks. So once we go to RIDE on February 2nd, and we know exactly what they're going to make us do with these schools, they may come up and say, gee, you had in your elementary budget just to repair univents. We don't think that's good enough anymore because of COVID. Maybe they'll make us spend that money that way. We don't know yet. We will know more in February. But if that goes well next week, we need to order those univents immediately if we want to, what Kerry was just saying, ensure that we're ready to go next September with Cumberland Hills students moving in. Because if you order those univents in April, you might not get them till late July.
Right.
So the committee needs to be aware of that. We'll be back to you with all this. Bob, I'm sure will report out how our meeting goes on the 2nd, at our next meeting. The other piece that I just wanted to brief you on tonight was, the high school security project's going on.
Right.
And one of the things we want to do, and we think because we have a little bit of money in Will's budget, like I mentioned, the state came through with purifiers, and I mentioned we had $112,000 in the budget for that. And we haven't had to buy as much PPE stuff because there's some money there. This has been taken out of the project when the bond issue, I guess, went from 83 to 79. There is no money other than to create a new entranceway, which will be on the side across from the pool, because it'll be behind the fence, and no longer will students use the main front entrance. That will be, that won't be an entrance. There'll be a new entrance. Going down that corridor between those, there's some rooms to the left in the auditorium. There's a corridor there. And those rooms, we need to spend some money in them, and especially they're going to be that's where everyone's going to come through the school now. And in talking to the high school principal, he feels if he could move guidance and maybe special ed office down into those offices, he could keep maybe 90% of the traffic that comes into the building out of the building, because there's so many people that come into those two areas. So we would like to move special ed and the guidance down there, and also the resource officer would be in that area, and that would open up the guidance area now. And there are some classrooms right now that people that aren't teaching are using because of space. For example, the high school special ed coordinator is in a classroom, and there are other people in classrooms that would free up classrooms, because I think Adolfo is getting nervous about when he loses that trans building for those, for good, because eventually the preschool will be there. He's going to need classrooms, especially, he's on now, especially with what we've been doing with CTE courses, etc. So Adolfo, I don't know how much you heard. If you'd like to weigh in, I'd love for you to do it.
Yeah, thanks, Alex. I appreciate that. Yeah, so one of the things that, especially if we return in the fall with COVID restrictions still in place, one of the things that we will be up against is the use of spaces where teachers would congregate, and we want to eliminate those things. So, when we started this project or started looking at this project 2 years ago, it was a much different situation. So now with the restriction of space, I am worried about that. And what Alex says is true. If we can move the special education offices and the school counseling offices to the front of the building, what happens is not only do we pick up 4 teaching spaces in the heart of the building, just about all the traffic that would ever need to come into the high school would be on the other side of a locked out door. And this is a safety project right now with the gates going up soon and the fencing going up. It's already so much better for students to be able to walk from the main building to the wellness center. And this is only going to be It's only going to increase our safety substantially, because the public, not only do they not have access to the high school, there'll be no need for them to access the high school. And so that's what we're looking to achieve from this.
And the money that's in Will's budget, that's for capital type items that we were going to purchase, it would be really good to spend it on capital money and not have it be, part of our balance in the budget act and adding another one-time type, item to what we're already faced. So this money in his capital budget would go for capital improvements, and I think it would be a really, first of all, it would be, it would help for curb appeal for when people come into the building, which I think is important. I think our building should look nice, but also what we've talked about, it is a safety project, and this would bring a lot of added safety to the high school.
Okay. All right, Alex.
So we'll be back to you with that when Will's working on pricing and that type of stuff now. We will be back to the committee very shortly.
Okay. So we have 3 resolutions here to deal with tonight.
Yes.
First is SCR 2021-01, a payment to Colliers International for the owner's representation services for the months of November 2020 through January 2021, in the amount not to exceed $40,224.83. And the payment for this is coming from the, I'm assuming the bond issue, Alex?
No, it should be, you have the fiscal note, it should be, a portion of that will be charged to the high school security project, a small portion of it. And then yes, also the bond issue. So that there's no money in the high school security project. Like I've talked with you people in the past. I've mentioned how the district is being forced to absorb these soft costs, that the town never put any of this into the lease that they issued for us. So things like Colliers and Toronto and whatever other soft costs we're being forced to take on.
Okay. Anyone have any questions in regards to this one? Need a motion?
I'll motion.
Motion by Mr. Smith, seconded by Mr. Collins.
Second.
No further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Ayes have it, 3-0. Next is SCPR 01-2021-02, resolution empowering the Cumberland School Committee to approve the second payment to ADS Construction for the amount not to exceed $124,940.32. And this is what, the master lease? Yes, master lease money?
Right. It's been signed off by the Colliers people who are managing the project for us. And this is the first payment you approved a few weeks ago for about $118,000. This is the second payment, of about, we're going to spend somewhere around $700,000 on this project.
Anyone have any questions? Hearing none, I need a motion.
Motion approved.
Motion to approve by Mr. Collins,
I'll second.
second by Mr. Smith. All in favor?
Aye.
Ayes have it, 3-0. Next is a resolution SCPR 01-2021-03. Resolution empowering the Cumberland School Committee to approve payments to Toronto Architects for additional costs estimated and recommended by Colliers for Stage 1 and Stage 2 submissions for the $79 million bond, not to exceed $8,000. Alex, what is the additional?
This is a reimbursable to Toronto, what Colliers felt and others, that they should get a second estimator to review numbers and to
Right.
make sure that we knew where we were going when we went to ride with our plan, so that everyone is obviously want to make sure that we're living within the budget, and they thought it would be worthwhile for this $8,000 to have a company,
Right.
PMC, also take a look at what was being proposed. So they did that. Toronto hired the person, they did the work, and now I've got the invoice I think attached there, Cindy would have attached the invoice for
Right.
that they sent to Torado. So Torado is not marking this up at all to us, which he does have the right to mark up 10%
Right.
when he does brings in
Okay.
people.
Anyone have any questions? Guys are moving to my screens now. All right, so I need a motion.
Motion to approve?
Motion by Mr. Collins,
I'll second.
second by Mrs. Smith. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Nice have it. 3-0. Thank you. Next is CHS activity reports, which there were none in the folder this time. Next, public comment. Anyone there from the public who would like to address the finance subcommittee?
Doesn't look like it, Paul.
The chairman, okay. Hearing none. Need a motion to adjourn at 6:01 PM.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn by Mrs. Smith,
Second.
second by Mr. Collins. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it, 3-0. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.